Welcome to this installment of the NRC Safety Series, Safety on the Railroad. This series of instructional videos has been made possible by the National Railroad Construction and Maintenance Association, better known as the NRC. Financial support has been provided from the proceeds of our annual equipment auction. Donated equipment from the railroads has made this entire safety series available to our active members free of charge. The use of these informative videos is up to the individual companies to use as an enhancement to their existing safety program. It is highly recommended that a company representative be present during the viewing session. We have also provided a test to further reinforce the importance of the demonstrated safety procedures that should always be followed while on a railroad job site. Again, the use of this test is up to each company's discretion. The NRC accepts no responsibility or liability concerning the use of the content and testing materials provided in this video production. It is simply our intent to offer an effective reference tool that will inform and educate on the utmost importance of safety to those working in the railroad industry. Reproduction of these DVDs is a violation of copyright laws without permission from the NRC. These videos are for active NRC members only. The NRC is a not-for-profit organization consisting of railroad contractors along with material and service suppliers to the rail industry. Now relax, sit back, and enjoy this presentation. And remember, safety on the railroad begins with you. In this segment of the NRC Safety Series, we're going to introduce you to the hand tools of the railroad and the rules of safety that apply. We will identify the tools most commonly used on the job site, inspect them for safety requirements, and demonstrate the proper handling and manual techniques. At the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of how to choose and use a tool that will ensure the safety of both you and the rest of your crew. Prior to any day's activities, it is imperative to hold a job briefing. During this briefing, the following must be addressed: the day's work schedule, the exit plan, necessary safety protection, emergency plan, identifying of emergency trained personnel, establishing the chain of command, on-track protection, and any unusual conditions that may affect the crew's safety. The job briefing should never be overlooked and is required as a minimum for safety on the railroad. It creates strong communication, increases productivity, and could actually save someone's life. We will now discuss personal protection equipment, or PPE. These are items that you must wear for protection from harm to your body. They are worn to raise visibility on the job site, prevent objects from entering your body, and lessen impact in the event of being struck. The use of PPE can save you from injury and possibly save your life. PPE includes, but is not limited to, the following items: safety helmet, safety glasses, goggles or shields, reflective vest, gloves, work boots, respirator, ear protection, and leg protection. PPE must be worn at all times during the course of your daily activities and may be required at other times as well. Check with your supervisor, safety representative, and your company's policies for specific requirements. Now we'll take a look at the basic hand tool selection used to build and maintain track. They are broken down into 5 basic categories. The tie and timber tools, consisting of one-man tie tongs, two-man tie tongs, timber tongs, pointed bars, lining bars, and the foot adze. The ballast tools are the square shovel, pick, switch broom, and ballast fork. The spike handling tools are the spike maul, claw bar, spike puller, spike lifter, and sledgehammer. The rail handling tools are the track jack, track wrench, rail dogs, crane dogs, B&O punch, rail bender, track chisel, anchor wrench, track gauge, and the rail fork. Accessory tools consist of rigging, torch, extension cords, and saw blades. The quality of your hand tools are essential to the success of the job, and most importantly, essential to your health and safety. Let's take a look at some tools and find out what you can do to be sure that your equipment meets proper safety measurements. This is an example of a quality tool. Notice that the handle is smooth and intact, without any noticeable signs of weakness. The head of this tool is also smooth, without chips or signs of metal flow. The maul head is firmly attached to the handle, and the appropriate wood wedge and steel wedge are installed. This tool passes our visual inspection. This tool is definitely showing signs of wear. There are cracks along the handle, and the handle is not securely attached to the maul head. The head itself is also exhibiting what we call mushrooming, where metal flow is evident. And notice the chips along the side. This tool fails our inspection and should be tagged and removed from service. Any tool showing obvious signs of failure, such as this claw bar with broken off pieces in the throat and serious mushrooming in the back, and this track jack with both broken off pieces and mushrooming. Whether you are using it or not, it should be immediately removed from service and brought to the attention of your supervisor. Your safety and your fellow coworker safety should always be first and foremost, and not left to chance by the outcome of using substandard hand tools. Now that we have an idea of the tools that are used on the track and what to check for on a safety inspection, it's time to learn more about them within a job site setting. We'll now take a look at the most common railroad hand tools being used properly, which also means being used safely. Spike mauls are used to drive spikes. They should not be used to drive pandrol clips, rail anchors, drive lags, or anything else other than a spike. The spiking maul has a fat end and a skinny end. The fat end is for normal spiking, and the skinny end is for driving in those hard-to-reach areas, like between guardrail and running rail, or at the toe and heel of a frog. The skinny end is longer in order to keep the maul balanced for ease of handling. As with all tools, it is extremely important to inspect the tool prior to use. Look for any cracks or chips. If metal flow is evident, then the tool must be tagged and removed from service. The handle must be securely installed so that there is no movement of the maul. The handle must be cut off flush with the maul and the provided wood and steel wedges installed. The handle must be straight with no cracks, breaks, or notches in the wood. Once you have done a final check of the tool, it is now time to go to work.
Setting a spike in a tie can be more dangerous than driving a spike if not done properly. The first thing to do is verify that no spikes, anchors, or any other debris is on the plate or tie prior to setting a spike. Hold the spike with your fingers pointing downward. You should grasp the handle close to the maul and tap the spike as demonstrated. Continue to tap the spike until it is partially set. Then grab the handle in a wood chopper fashion and give the spike a couple more hits. When driving the spike, it is customary to hold the tool at the end of the handle as if you were holding a baseball bat. When the spike is hit, the handle must be parallel to the ground as not to bend the spike. The return movement is a simple arch of the back and a flip of the wrist. When the spike is hit in the right location, the return movement is virtually effortless. we will demonstrate two experienced spikers in action. Note the orientation of the handles, the arching of the back, and the flip of the wrist. If they are proficient, you can cover the impression on the spike head with a dime. The proper technique of setting a spike is essential to your safety and that of others nearby. Always be aware of where you are and what you are doing.
A claw bar is used for pulling spikes. Some people may call it a spike puller, but the true term is claw bar. The shape is unique for fitting under a spike head. The bar is long and heavy to give the worker sufficient leverage to pull a spike. The other end is shaped like a crowbar in order to get leverage between the plate and the tie to help with those stubborn spikes, and is also helpful for nipping rail to install the tie plate. A claw bar should never be used to line track and should absolutely never be used with a track jack. As always, the tool must be inspected prior to use, and the claw bar is no exception. Look for any visible signs of cracking or wear in the area that engages the spike. If there is chipping or wear, then the tool must be tagged and removed from service. Never strike the heel of a claw bar to engage it under the spike. A spike lifter is the tool for this job. The heel of the claw bar must be inspected for metal flow and cracks. Check the claw bar for straightness and any other visible signs of misuse. If weakening is apparent, then the tool must be tagged and removed from service.
When pulling a spike, wiggle the claw bar under the spike head and ensure positive engagement. Firmly grasp the claw bar about midway. Make sure you have good footing and begin short snaps with the claw bar using its weight as an advantage. Never pull the claw bar toward your body. Once the spike is loose, push down on the bar until it is free. Use extreme care near the opposite rail as demonstrated. Sometimes when a spike is loose, it may be hooked under the rail or in the spike hole of the plate. If this happens, simply push the spike forward and lift the spike out as demonstrated. As always, make safety your top priority when pulling a spike.
The spike lifter is one of those tools that is an absolute must for a safe, effective, and efficient track gang. You should never be on a site without it. Without a spike lifter, the temptation to hit the back of a claw bar with a spike maul is prevalent. This is an absolutely dangerous action and should never be attempted. The steel in a claw bar has a different hardness than the spike maul and may result in flying shrapnel when struck. Look at the spike lifter and inspect for cracks, chips, or mushrooming as you would a claw bar. Ensure that the handle is secure and not broken. Always use the right tool for the job. The spike lifter comes with a handle and weighs about 8 pounds.
This is a two-person operation and requires accuracy with a sledgehammer, not a spiking maul. Inspect the spike lifter as you would a spiking maul and claw bar. One person is to engage the lifter as best as possible, and the other person should strike the head of the lifter with a sledgehammer. Once the spike is lifted, a claw bar can be used as described before. Using the right tool for the job is a critical rule in job safety.
The track jack is a tool designed to jack track. This is another one of those tools that can cause serious injury. Do not operate a track jack if you have not been properly trained by a qualified person. Inspect the track jack first to ensure that it is working properly. There are a few varieties of jacks, but only the track jack has a square hole for placing a lining bar. Consult your company policy when using a track jack with a round hole for jacking track. Jacks can be made of steel or aluminum. The steel jacks are rare but are still used. They both have the same style of action and a capacity of 15 tons. The aluminum jacks weigh 30 pounds and the steel are about 80 pounds. Look at the body of the jack for any cracks or dents. Especially look at the base of the jack for mushrooming or the slightest crack. If any cracks are found, tag and remove from service. Operate the jack with no load and ensure positive engagement of the teeth and that the spring is operating properly. Make sure the trip action works properly. Adjust an oil as suggested by the manufacturer. Inspect the housing for the lining bar and make certain there are no cracks or foreign objects, such as ballast, that may prevent the lining bar from being fully in place.
Now let's jack some track. Make sure that you place the jack on a flat foundation between two ties, understanding that the jack will most likely sink into the ballast before it begins to raise the track. Raise the shank until it is pressing on the base of the rail and is fully engaged with the shelf. Next, place the lining bar in the housing. Make sure the lining bar does not rotate more than 20 degrees. Under no circumstances should a lining bar that rotates in the housing be used. Never use a claw bar, crowbar, pointed bar, spike maul, or any other tool for jacking track. Only an approved lining bar shall be used. Make sure you have good footing and stand to the side of the bar. Pull down on the bar until the linkage is engaged and you hear a positive click. Maintain a handhold on the lining bar at all times. Continue to raise the track until the desired elevation is reached. Never operate a jack with more than one person. Always remove the lining bar from the housing and ensure the housing is in the upward position. Only experienced persons, properly trained, shall be permitted to walk a jack down. When dropping a jack, it is imperative to look around and ensure that no one is in harm's way. Observe that all other persons, including yourself, will not get hurt when releasing the load. It is customary to say in a loud voice, "Jack down," prior to dropping a jack. As always, be aware of safety, especially where others are concerned.
Track wrenches are used to tighten track bolts. They are not used to roll rail, line track, or any other activity other than tightening or loosening track bolts. They come in different styles, such as double-ended, single-ended, and speed wrenches. Experienced personnel that are trained in its proper use should only use the speed wrenches. The average track wrench weighs about 15 pounds and is about 4 feet in length. Use the right size for the nut to be tightened. Inspect the wrench for any wear, cracking, or broken pieces. A worn track wrench can slip and cause serious injury to the head area. If the wrench is unfit to use, tag it and remove from service.
When loosening a bolt, always stand to the side. Do not pull toward your body until solid footing is established. Using the tool's weight in a snapping action can help loosen a stubborn nut. Once the nut is loose, a rotating action can be used to expedite this process. When tightening a nut, use the downward stroke and snapping action to get that final snug on the nut. Pay close attention to your hands as they become close to the rail. Use care when using the track wrench so you are not putting yourself in a position that can put you at risk.
The lining bar has many uses. Its primary function is for lining rail and track. When lining track within a lining crew, the pinch point type is the preferred style. We can jack track, line track, and lift track. We can move ties, nip ties, and line ties. But we do not stick the end of a lining bar in a hole in the rail and roll it. We leave that activity to the rail fork. Lining bars come in two styles and weights, either 18-pound or 26-pound bars are available. Wedge point and diamond point are the most common styles. The heavier of the bars is recommended when using a track jack. Care must be taken when using the lighter lining bars, as they will bend under certain loads. When inspecting, look for any burrs in the steel that may cause a cut to the skin. Ensure that the bar is straight. A bent bar should be tagged and removed from service.
When lining track, make sure the bar is deep in the ballast and that you maintain solid footing and balance. A wide stance is always preferred. Make sure that you are aware of where your feet are at all times to avoid injury. When working with others, make sure you move together. It is customary to have one person be the designated caller to ensure that everyone is pulling at the same time. Again, being aware of your positioning is essential to a safe work environment.
Tie tongs are for handling ties and timbers. We can lift, drag, or flip ties with tie tongs. Two-man tie tongs must be used with a pair of workers and are not designed for the lone worker. Tie tongs weigh about 12 pounds and have sharp points, and those points must be maintained for safe operation. When inspecting tie tongs, make sure that the points are sharp and that the tongs are not bent. Inspect the rivet at the hinge point for any wear and that the action of the tongs is not binding or stiff. Tongs should hinge freely without forcing the motion. Look for bent or loose points. If the tongs do not pass the inspection, remove them from service, tag them, and follow company policy.
When using two-man tongs, pair up workers based on experience, strength, and height. Always lift with your legs, not your back. Whether you are dragging ties, lifting ties, or walking with ties, always communicate the direction and location that the tie will go. Tie tongs are not for flipping rail. Use proper commands so everyone is in unison to help prevent strain on just one or two workers. Never make sudden jerks. Lifting together is the most important part of this team operation. Communication and teamwork are essential to using this tool safely.
While the pick is a very useful tool, it can be dangerous if used improperly. Picks are sharp and can puncture the skin. Pay close attention when inspecting this tool. A pick should have a sharp, pointed end with the chisel type end opposite. These ends must be maintained in order to make the tool effective. Always inspect the handle and ensure the pick is tight. If your policy is to fix the head to the handle, always use a bolt, never a 16-penny nail.
On the railroad, we primarily use the pick for breaking up frozen or contaminated packed ballast. Extreme care must be taken around the rail, plates, and ties. A glancing blow from a pick contacting the rail can be very hazardous and cause severe injury. Do not swing a pick as if you were driving spikes. Use a chopping motion, with the hands spread apart, not together. Stay focused when swinging near the rails and maintain a wide stance. As in all cases, be aware of your surroundings and be certain no one is at risk.
We will briefly touch on this subject and direct the details to OSHA recommended practices. This is to be considered only as an overview to give you an idea of other practices you may see on the job site. When encountering a hoisting situation, it is imperative that you use the right size cables, shackles, and straps for the loads that you intend to lift. If in doubt, throw them out. There is no repair procedure for frayed or damaged cables and straps. Kinked or pinched cables are no good. Use your rigging only for its intended use. Attention to conditions is imperative when hoisting. Wet materials can be slippery and heavier than listed. Again, if you have not been properly trained in hoisting techniques, rigging, and signaling a piece of equipment, then do not perform the lift. If you have any doubt, do not perform the lift. Improper hoisting is a life-threatening activity and must only be performed by experienced personnel. This section of the presentation is absolutely not intended to be a training session for hoisting. It is only intended to familiarize you with the basics. Know that cable ratings are based on a straight vertical pull, and when used in any other orientation, will reduce the capacity rating. If a cable is rated 5 tons, and you use 2 cables on a 45-degree angle, this does not mean that you can pick up 10 tons. Please refer to your company policy for further information.
We will now demonstrate a few basic signals when directing an operator hoisting a load. Boom down. This means that the load will come down and also move further away from the machine. Boom up. This means that the load will be raised and move closer to the machine. Boom down. Hold the load. This means the load will move away from the machine but will maintain the same elevation. Boom up. Hold the load. This means the load will move closer to the machine but will maintain the same elevation. Swing right. Swing left. The load will go right or left and maintain the same elevation.
Now that we've concluded our presentation on hand tool safety, it's time for you to take the test. If your company has not implemented this test as part of its safety practices, we encourage you to take it as part of your own safety program. We also invite you to view all the installments of the NRC Safety Series and watch them periodically as a refresher. When it comes to safety on the railroad, we're counting on everyone to do their part by being as informed and knowledgeable as possible. If you have any questions or comments, please ask your safety manager or your immediate supervisor. Let's work together so we can all make it home safely to our families. Thank you for your time, and make it your job to keep the railroad work sites safe.